Apologies, I don't think we have any apologies. Everybody was. Thank you. Any declarations of interest from anybody for any items today? We have public forum. We have Tanya talking, who is going to be online.
She is connected. Tanya's iPhone.
Yes, Tanya, welcome. Can you hear us?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I can.
Can't hear you just yet.
No.
Go.
Sorry.
Do you see the but we are?
Welcome. There's a problem with audio at the moment.
Yeah, I can hear you, Chair. Can you please just let me know when I'm to speak?
No, I still can't hear you, sorry. We're just trying to fix that.
Where our audio's fine, so it's on her end.
We're all fine at this end. Are you sure you're okay at your end? I can't hear everything.
I can you not hear me?
No, we still can't hear anything. Perhaps rejoin or maybe use your computer. We were talking before, that was a good connection.
Is she disconnected there?
It's not. Yeah.
Okay.
We're waiting for we can get that done. Perhaps while it's happening, we'll just go to the minutes of the last meeting. Thank you, David.
Just wanted to make sure that my questions were included. One of them not the others. Should it have been in this?
Yes, it became an action, so it should have been in there. So we'll make sure we get to the actions. Today.
I just got waiting. Does it need to be in there because the question was just put in a normal meeting, wasn't it? That question and the other question relating to Kanoa.
I got an action as a consequence of both questions. Yeah.
That action you didn't get initially, though, did you?
So
it wasn't until David actually went back and looked at the transcript.
Yeah, correct. So the action didn't get recorded. So that was a failure on our part. But once David called it out, we acted on it. But what we just need to make sure of is that the actions are clear and recorded over the course of the meeting.
I think it's probably best if we can ask those questions at the time dedicated to more questions. I know things might come up during the meeting, but you have a burning issue, you want to ask a question, and that there is a time, and that will definitely then be recorded, and everybody will know that it's been asked and when it's been asked.
Carry on.
Is that okay? Or?
Well, I'm not sure myself. Often with discussions, something comes out, and it would seem silly to leave it for another 4 or 6 weeks to look at this question. I would have thought the quid pro quo would be that if everybody thought it was reasonable thing, that it would go, would be able to be action. Rather than having to ask them all to start before you actually got into the meeting, because I find when everybody has interactions, then something in mind clicks, you know.
You can have action points as you go through, but in the conversations, they do come up. You know, just action, so it should be no problem. Not just at the beginning, it's actually in the conversations will be questions.
Tanya's come back online.
I think that in that case, it's very important that if you do have a question, that you make sure that it is recorded and that it will definitely occur in the minutes, and we all agree that question needs to be answered. So it's sort of not completely formal, but semi-formal.
You need to second.
Yes, I do need a second for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alistair, have you got a question?
Yeah, I wouldn't go on with everybody needs to agree with the question. There was a couple of points, one in relation to Kanoa, and I put the question, David spoke to it, and then Ewan confirmed it again. So surely that's all in the notes and things, and that should have got a response, but it didn't.
Well, I think you need to make sure that it be recorded. That's important.
Oh,
We do that. We'll see.
We'll learn from them and move forward.
Second. David, thank you.
Tanya is now online.
Right, Tanya, I think we're online now.
Yes. Yeah, apologies. System that doesn't like Zoom.
We still can't hear you.
Is it coming through now?
Tanya, we still can't hear you. I'm not sure what we can do about that.
Oh,
Lucy can hear Tanya, but we can't.
Lucy can hear.
Yeah. Do you want to have another look, Jane? I'm sure you're not.
This is not with the paper.
Sorry, Tanya, we're just trying to see if we can sing this in. Just ask her to send them in a writing email to us, so we can read it out. Yeah. You do Lucy and see if she can.
Yeah, to get Lucy to talk. Lucy, can you talk? Can you say good morning?
Hello.
To the room?
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. Thanks, Lucy.
Oh, there you go. We can hear Tanya.
Okay.
Hear you now, Tanya. Thank you for your patience.
No, thank you. Technology and Zoom I struggle with. Look, thanks for giving me the 5 minutes. I have prepared a paper and I'm not going to talk to it. I've very little time, but I've asked for it to be circulated, please. And I would hope that council could respond to my paper in writing. There are a number of questions in that paper. The 3 things I do want to talk about quickly. The first one is reserves. The results that you have in front of you show that there's a continual underspend in the infrastructure area as a result of delays in projects and for whatever other reason. The community resilience overall is substantially, has a decent amount of underspend over a 2-year period. My suggestion and petition to the council is that that amount be calculated by the staff and transferred into a reserve, and that reserve be held for the initial purpose, which was to support infrastructure spend both in repairs and capital projects. And given the importance of the Kanoa projects and the potential risk to cost with the current fuel prices, I would hope that the reserve would support those projects, particularly over the next couple of years. The second point, Chair, is around risk. And I know that's not an audit and risk committee, but I am asking, and again, I asked in the submission to the bylaw process, that a referral be made to the Audit and Risk Committee for all of the ICM work. I feel the council was absolutely blind to the risks to the community and the risks to the councillors as a result of very, very important work programs. And we saw some of that risk as we travelled around on the bus the other day. It's a formal risk referral so that the risk, it simply becomes an oversight ability of the council as part of the risk program, and it might include a review by PwC or equivalent as they are working through the council on the risk program. Council staff make many decisions on risk priorities that I feel that council was blind to, and certainly the ratepayers are blind to. And what encouraged me to bring this up with you is the level of service reports. And you might raise that discussion where there's been no reporting back on the achievement around maintenance and defects. And the third thing I'd like to just suggest, Chair, is that we actually bring some urgency to this. Some of those level of service reports have been sitting there for a long time with no action on them and no outcome, and they're absolutely critical to the safety of the community. And that is my presentation for today, Chair. And as I just recommend that the councillors and council staff read my more detailed report and questions.
Right, thank you, Tahu. Yes, we certainly will. And we've got your 3 main points about the reserves from the underspend, the risks. Largely, I understand from the failure to do business as usual to make sure the stopbanks are in a fit state. And the other thing is about the report later on in this agenda, where it talks about safe and resilient communities and where work has been deferred. Is that a fair summary?
Yes, Chair, it is.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody got any questions of clarification for Tanya? No, Alistair?
How have these reserve monies in the past been handled where we probably didn't get our work done? Where did that money go? And it shows as a profit at the end of the financial year.
So in the past, Councillor, we didn't have budgets for flood bank repairs. We only had the river management budgets and the drainage budgets, and they would fall into the reserves for those communities, for the catchment communities. What has happened is that all this repair work for regional infrastructure and such, and the funding that was set aside for it and interest, etc., has been left in the general reserve, and so it's fallen into the larger pot of retained earnings. And that's what I'm asking, that it be transferred back out of retained earnings and set back as a reserve for the infrastructure projects.
We'll definitely get a written reply to you on that, and that obviously will be shared with the committee as well, so that we all understand and hopefully understand your issues as well. And I think we've also undertaken to meet with you and other landowners on the Ariti to fully explain what is happening before the diggers turn up. So that's an undertaking that we were given as well.
Thank you.
Right. Is there anything else, Patrick?
So just for clarification, so there's an action to respond to Tanya's questions for us to take away.
Right. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Tanya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Now we'll go on to the next item, which is the financial report.
Yes, yes. I've just got some notes to step through in terms of the financial report to explain the results. So our statement of comprehensive revenue and expense is favourable by $3.6 million compared to plan on a March year-to-date basis. And I'm just going to step through what the drivers for that are. So unrealised gains from the investment portfolio is $2.6 million of that increase, so most of the increase. Our other income is 1.7 million favourable, and just noting that there's a transposition error in the bridge that you see there. It's 1.7, not 2.8 million favourable. That's driven by unbudgeted jobs for nature income, circa 762k. Science program income, which is favourable to plan, 237k. Consents income ahead of plan, 318k. So our other income is favourable for those reasons. Our operating expenditure year to date is $2.8 million favourable, and again, transposition error on the bridge. Primarily, that's in contractors and consultants, which are $2 million favourable due to underspend in programs including land sustainability, which is 506k underspend. Science programs, 636k underspend, and exec finance, governance and risk, people and capability programs are 838k underspend year to date. As well as contractors, employee expenses are 500k favourable year to date, and other expenses 200k favourable, somewhat reflecting difficulty recruiting and some bonus to get programs off the ground as a consequence, but some catch up anticipated by the year end, particularly in the contractor spend. The other key call out, Kanoa revenue was budgeted to be 3.5 million March year to date. It hasn't arrived yet, so that's a negative impact. So overall, the corrected bridge would read that our investment income is 2.6 million favourable, our other income is 1.7 million favourable, our operating expenditure is 2.8 million favourable, and then a partial offset with Kanoa funding not received, 3.5 million adverse. Those are the key drivers of that revenue and expense result. So if I just touch on a couple of other sort of highlights in the report. Statement of financial position. Our total movement in equity is $8.8 million since the start of the financial year. There aren't any specific call-outs here. It's primarily driven by the timing of revenue collection, and it's in line with our regular pattern of collecting most of our income in the first half of the financial year, but with regular expenditure throughout the financial year. You'll see in the cash flow statement, or cash flow forecast, I should say, on page 21, that we anticipate having largely depleted our cash balance by September, prior to fees and charges and invoicing and rates invoicing, then building back our cash balances and moving us into the next cycle. Capital expenditure on page 19, the annual plan for the capital budget of 9.8 million. Most of that was for flood infrastructure works. 8.4 million of it was flood infrastructure works. These flood infrastructure capital works, which are tranches 2 and 3, have been delayed or not yet commenced And that's the main reason why actual capital spend year to date is only $500,000 against the $9.8 million plan. Assuming that the recommendations on the fleet are agreed to later in this meeting, then we anticipate that the vehicle spend will occur either by the end of this financial year or shortly into the new financial year. And then some final comments. Our cash flow, page 31, our cash flow forecast, excuse me, suggests that we're going to remain cash positive into the next fees and charges and rating cycles, primarily due to the $7 million of local government funding authority debt that we drew down last year, which boosted our cash balance. What we now need to do is model the funding requirements for Kanawa for the next 2 years or so that we can develop a bit of a debt profile and then propose to you when we're going to need to draw down from the LGFA and how much. So that will be a debtor group that we trigger shortly. And then debtors and rates, debtors, I've got nothing specific to call out. So that's the report, and Jodie is available to support me if there are any detailed questions that you want to step through with the report.
Right, thank you, Patrick. Paul.
Thank you, Patrick. On page 12, you made a correction on the other income being 1.7, not 2.8.
Yeah.
Which actually alters the surplus to 7.7, not 8.8. I think you intended to 8.8 as a surplus. So is the surplus 8.8 or 7.7? Because I added it up and it's 1.1 difference, obviously.
So the March year-to-date surplus is 8.8. That number's correct.
And that's including what you said, the change of 1.7 for other income, not 2.8.
Yes, it is, because I inadvertently understated other income, and then I overstated other income in the bridge and understated the impact of the operating expense. So,
okay, because I quickly added it up and it was actually 7.7, which is the difference of 1.1.
If you like,
I just need to confirm which one it is.
Yeah. So if you like, I'll take an action to resubmit the bridge. But the surplus is 8.8 to clarify. But I recirculate the bridge if you like, just to demonstrate.
Anything else, David?
Yeah, look, the year-end position, so that's the March position, but the year-end is still looking at 5.9, isn't it? Is that right?
Year-end,
Surplus.
we are
Page 13.
13. So year-end, we're still projecting. We're projecting a surplus of $5.9 million, and that's $2 million favourable to what the budget had anticipated. The primary driver for that is pretty much what's driving the year-to-date results. We'll continue to see favourable managed fund performance. Our underlying expenditure continues to be lower than planned, and partially offset by the Kanawa income is going to be delayed. Those are the drivers that are in our forecast of the year position.
Jeremy?
Yeah, just making sure. So the money's just looking at from a budget perspective, apart from the funding bits and pieces, that we're going to use the money where, as in the work's being done. This will be a bit of a discussion later on, but are there going to be carryovers in regards to this? Yeah, there's some things that haven't been done, like land sus and bits and bobs. So are we going to? The problem sometimes is we'll carry over its timing, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get spent because we haven't got the team to do it now. What's changed in a few months' time into the next year? Because it's saying, well, if you haven't been able to spend the budget now, how are we going to get an indication that we're actually going to be able to do that work plus the next year's work? How do you tell us that that's going to happen? Are these so when we're setting rates that we're not actually spending the money we're already rated for before we're rating the community again on the next lot? We're still trying to spend the last lot. So it's to understand what the balance date will be, how much
Yeah.
left and what workload hasn't been done. And then to explain that we're going to have to put that into the next year. Are we going to be able to do that? Or are we, do we have to cut the programs back just physically do what we're saying we're doing?
Yeah.
That makes any-
No, I think I understand the question. I think there's, in terms of money that's in reserves that carries over into the next year because it's essentially unspent. I think I need to reconcile that to understand that sufficiently. In terms of our underlying surplus that we're forecasting, Rob requested Rachel and I do a piece of work to identify how the underspend could be spent in the next financial year. So we've produced a schedule for him of initiatives that he was keen to promote the money gets spent on. If that is agreed to, then essentially the underspend will be carried over as retained earnings next year, and those activities will be within incur expenditure, and that expenditure would go against the retained earnings. So essentially, the underspend for this year carried over into next year and used for some specific initiatives.
That you bring up, good, if I can ask a question, because we're talking about the annual plan, you talk about new initiatives. Again, it's just new work programs, but we're not fulfilling our community's needs in the year before. And then we're starting to talk, oh, we've got new initiatives. And I'm going, how are we going to do them when we're actually not doing the basics? Or, you know, if you're carrying this go, and I don't know what those new initiatives are. Being told, I know they're talking the annual plan, but we don't know what they are. So I'm just trying to understand where this money, and we need to make sure it gets spent where it's meant to be spent. And if it's not being spent, then why are we rating again, doubling up on it? We're asking into the next financial year. But I mean, it's just questions that need to be sort of clarified. And then we hear a new initiative and I'm going, we've got more work to do, and I don't know how we're going to do it. So, sorry, that's all.
Noting what you said, Jeremy, and I think there's a piece of work required to provide you with clarity that you're asking for.
Is that a point? Do you understand what Jeremy's asking, and are you clear about what's required?
I think the exercise is potentially a bit complex, and what I would like to do is to meet with Jeremy outside of the meeting and get some just make sure I'm absolutely clear about the exercise that we need to do, and then we'll need to whiteboard we got underway.
But we do talk about, sorry, in the next few items around the annual plan, we're talking about new initiatives. And I'm saying, well, because we're off questions about the annual plan in regards to, so I'll move that to that.
So are you happy with what Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, if we can clarify that.
If everybody else happy with that, we'll get a report back from. Okay, and that report is dealing with that particular point. Is everybody happy with what's proposed there?
Can I make a comment on it?
Yeah.
So what I think we're alluding to is that if for a budget for a financial year is a prediction of what's going to happen in the next month, it doesn't always play out as we expect it to play out. New staff that we thought we might be able to recruit, maybe that hasn't occurred. Maybe work that was scheduled dependent on recruiting new staff who weren't yet recruited didn't occur. So I think there's a twofold obligation on us. One is to understand why there may have been an underspend or why something has not been delivered. The second obligation is to both learn from that as we frame up the next 12 months ahead, but also understand if there has been an underspend, making sure it's transparent about where that comes from and what are we going to do about that additional resources in the next 12-month cycle. So I think that's what I was hearing from the chairman when he was asking these questions, is understanding, making sure not only an understanding of where this has come from, but then what therefore are the appropriate actions that we might consider taking into the next financial year. And I think that might be the essence of what we're hoping for here. Is that second part is, because we do seem to have a clear understanding of where it's come from. The second part of that question is a piece of work around, therefore, what will be the actions we take into the next financial year as a result of that.
Yeah, no, that's very clear. Thank you.
That's about workload.
Alistair?
Patrick, you said it's complicated. Please don't make it complicated, because we have to explain it to our constituencies, because for a number of years now, we've had this money at the bottom, which they read as profit. And they say, well, you didn't need to rate us to that. So we've got to have a full explanation as to where exactly what Philip put up.
Noted, thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. No, I think we all understand that. I do anyway. Ewan?
Yeah, well, it's probably adding a little bit more to that. So I suppose that bottom line possibly as we move forward with Kanoa funding, based on the way our financial reporting frameworks are, that will actually grow. That, just potentially that underspend is going to be exaggerated over the next period of years. So actually, how we report exactly what that is incredibly important.
Yeah. If I could just make a comment, the part of the exercise that we've gone through with the budget for 26-27 is to make the budget more accurate in terms of what we actually be, so that you accumulate, so that the surpluses that we generate from not delivering work don't carry over, and we get the rate down to a lower number. So just want to emphasise that was put forward to the logic in terms of the budget exercise that we've recently stepped through.
Thank you. Well, this is one of the points that Tania brought up as well about what happens to the surpluses in regard to the reserves and the money is spent, and what Phil says about having adequate staff to be able to do the job. It's quite a challenge at the moment. David?
Yeah, I'm still a wee bit confused about the actual surplus and the breakdown. So I'd be like a better breakdown on the 5.9 so that we actually understand. You mentioned several components, but still don't, Kanoa is a little bit and other things, but it'd be nice to have it laid out when it's such a large surplus, as it is.
Right. So are you asking
the 5.9?
Asking us to take an action to explain to you in perhaps in a simple bridge what the forecast full year result versus the budget full year result.
Well, I guess that this forecast year-end position has a surplus of 5.9. What's the actual breakdown of that with Kanoa and the rest of it, so we can understand?
I'm happy to take an action to break that out. It'll be a similar bridge to how we've explained the year-to-date results. It's right, it's going to be similar, but I'm happy to give that clarity if you want.
Okay, thanks very much. Yes, one more question, Alistair.
I guess if we turn that directly to percentage of rates, it's 19.66%, assuming that 300,000 is 1%. So if we look at it that way, we do have our constituents or ratepayers saying, what the hell are you doing?
If I could just comment briefly, a large proportion of the surplus that we will see at the end of the year is driven by the performance of the managed fund. In the investment committee yesterday, there was an appetite to build a resilience reserve and to use some of the outsized performance from the managed fund to protect us as an organisation, so that if in future years the port income doesn't turn up, the managed fund income doesn't turn up, or the leased income doesn't turn up for reasons of flood or otherwise, there's some protection for the organisation. So the largest proportion of the surplus that you're going to see, we're going to be tagging it for those purposes. So we just need to be really clear that we can't use it for multiple purposes, and if that's the priority that we landed on, then that's what we're going to work towards.
Yes, that was a useful discussion at the investment committee. So we're going to make sure that those, when we get a big surplus from the investment, then we can use some of that money to depress the need to increase rates, is right, isn't it?
Well, we can use it to build resilience so that if in future, because at the moment, the rates are at a level where we're assuming that we're going to continue to get a port dividend of circa $4.6 million. If in the future that dividend didn't do because we had a major flood or something, at the moment there's very little tagged resilience, and the potential implication would be we'd have to increase the rates to cover our expenditure. So by tagging it to resilience and building out resilience, it means that in future years, if those sorts of events do occur, we can continue to rate at the level we're currently rating at, because we've got a reserve that we can draw on to maintain those income streams. So that's the piece that we've implemented.
Did you understand that, Alistair?
Yeah, I do, but where the problem develops though, is that we've got to be conveying that accurately to our people who are supplying us money.
So I think your point, Alistair, is we need to articulate that clearly and
very clear.
Right, thank you. I'm keen to go on to the next matter, but
I'm just going to observe the opportunity perhaps lies at the end of the financial year with a observation statement of the financial outcome with an explanation of how, rather than 3 months out from the end of the financial year. It seems prudent to wait till that point in time.
Asking to see annual plans today, Speaker. Sorry. Just make a point that we're asking to set annual plans today based on this information, and there's accumulated surpluses and that work hasn't been done. So we're rating upon a rate that hasn't been actually used. Then technically, and this is the clarity. So we can talk about that and then comment.
Yeah, we do. I think that's a separate issue to the public-facing statements of what the outcome was for the financial year.
But I'm more saying I'm trying to find information for either an annual plan. I'm struggling with it at the moment, but I'll make that point clear at that point.
All right, draft annual plan to talk about later.
Yes.
Would somebody like to move and receive the financial report? Seconded by Jeremy. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the explanation, Patrick. Right, the Kanoa financials, item 1.1.
So I've got some brief talking notes here, and I'll skip through those. This was an action that came out of the previous Finance and Performance Committee. And what I've done here is I've produced a very brief Kanoa financials report so that we're starting to provide this information as requested in the committee. What this very brief report shows you, the first part of the report explains that on a March year-to-date basis, we anticipated 3.2 million of Kanoa funding, and we anticipated 4.3 million by the end of the year. That was mostly to fund tranche 1 initiatives. I've spoken with Lucy in the last couple of days, and we now believe we're going to receive about 1.5 million from Ariti and about 0.2 million with Yarnell, so about 1.9 million by the end of the year, with the remaining 2.4 million earned and paid for in future construction business. So that's how we think that $4.3 million is going to provide now. On a year-to-date basis, we've incurred about $900,000 of contract and consultant costs, and that related to design activities, program establishment, and David, to use your terminology, I guess the administrative activities associated with standing these programs up and getting them going. And then in terms of the project to date budget and spend, what I've done is I've simply snipped the tranche 1 and tranche 2 graphs out of the ICM report. I wanted to be to make sure that I wasn't giving you inconsistent information. And you will have, if you've been to the ICM committee, you will have seen these tables already. But essentially, on an April project date basis, the graphs show that tranche 1, Epirima and Te Anau, are close to completion, whilst Ariti still has some way to go. There is a potential small error on the first chart that I noted, which is that if the spend year to date is 1.5 million and the total program is 6, then we're 25% of the way through tranche 1, not 75%, which is on the chart. It's just a minor. The second graph shows that tranche 2 has had very little work against it thus far. For future reporting, just in terms of building the maturity of the reporting, what I'm planning to do is we'll work with the ICM team and the finance team. And what I think is really important for you to see is that we plot out the monthly expenditure against the activities over the next few years, match that to the milestone payments that we expect to receive from Kanoa, work out what our self-funding picture looks like, because that then needs to tie into what our debt funding is going to look like and the timing of when we need to do LGFA debt drawdowns and ask you to improve building up a debt profile. So I think that's the priority in terms of getting a good financial picture. So unless you correct me on that, that's where we're going to focus.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Any questions? Paul?
Yes, with regards to the Te Anau actual spend so far, I know there was a reason yesterday contractors have found it difficult to get access to the areas that they needed to complete work. I just need to confirm that we make sure that we spend that money and get the work done. You know, we're nearly 120 grand short of what we budgeted for, so it'd be good to make sure that work done. Like reassurance that we have that. Just basically because I think yesterday it said contractors couldn't get access to the areas of the road that they wanted to. Just need to make sure that that still happens.
Is it something we should request an action from the ICM committee on? Is that
well, there was a reason yesterday with regards to the tranche 1 spend, and the reason why it hasn't been done, because the likelihood is we were going to have it completed by
right.
So for the Te Anau work, and it's still realistically it's around 25% short.
Lucy, I can see Lucy's still online. What I propose is we'll seek an answer from Lucy and we can provide.
Thank you. Just we're heading into winter. If they had access difficulties before now, they're going to have some by now.
Okay, thank you. Alistair, did you have something?
I guess we're coming up to have a workshop on all this Kanoa stuff, and there'll be a fair bit of feedback from there, I think.
Right.
So we do get an accurate plan.
Thank you. Jeremy?
Thank you, Chair. One thing I was just reflecting on the financial report and understanding, looking at the long-term plan on where we're meant to be with, you've got tranche 2 and even tranche 3 spending money on tranche 3 this year. Just shows, I'm just saying, reflecting back on budgets done 2 years ago, what the long-term plan probably that far out in regards to debt servicing and the cost of the ratepayer. And this is what we need real clarity around. One of the biggest, the interest involved in funding debt, and again, setting rates based on budgets and things each year. But we're, because obviously we're intending that we might have been in tranche 3 funding working in this last financial year. So if we're looking and having budgets here based on the long-term plan, they're significantly out.
Yeah.
And trying to set things and trying to base off. I'm saying the long-term plan is probably no use to be
much help.
Not much help.
Yeah. If I can respond to that quickly, that exercise I spoke about earlier should give us the agility. So when we can see that milestones are going to be delivered, we're incurring the costs in the lead up to the milestone. 40% of the cost is ours. When we have that certainty, then we can give you a good understanding of how much debt we need to incur and why, which, to your point, Jeremy, could be quite different to the long-term plan because the timing of these large projects when they're actually planned out, when the funding is actually confirmed and when they're planned out, when they're actually delivered is often quite different to the 10-year plan.
Yeah, I think we might have meant to have 20 to 30 million a year.
So the long-term plan has a number of 25,305,000 at the end of 26.
We're only going to have 3 million. It's a whole difference. Right.
Jim, I think if I cast my mind back to the previous LTP cycle and our audit effort, I think it was that very issue that meant that they couldn't give us an unqualified status. They had to give it a qualified status for the very reason around the uncertainty of the Kanoa-related funding from EB, which probably was flagging a risk back then, and that risk to a degree has manifested, I guess, in terms of deviation from what we aspired to within the LTP.
I just, on what Paul was saying about expenditure not happening, it's going to be really important that we track each of the projects within each of the tranches to have them flagged on whether they've been fully spent or not, so that we track this right through, isn't it? So that's obviously something you'll be doing, Patrick.
Yeah, I'll be working with Lucy and we'll work out where best to report that. Yeah. Could I just in terms of Paul's earlier question, I think Lucy's online and she's quite happy to provide you an answer.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lucy.
Through your chair, I just put a brief answer in the chat there in case it was useful. But the short answer is that the contractors have confirmed they'll complete the work before the end of the calendar year in Te Anau. And as Councillor Evans mentioned, the delays primarily been caused by the weather interruptions. Kanoa are aware and are comfortable that the work will be being completed this calendar year.
Thank you.
Okay, Paul?
Thank you. Yeah.
Right, somebody like to move that recommendation? Jeremy, seconded by Alistair. All those in favour, please say aye. Sorry, did I miss you? No. I'll look at your way next time. Right, next item is the item about vehicles, hopefully. Is best about this one? You going to explain a little bit?
Yeah, to do that. So, look, our main request in this paper is per the recommendations to allow us to replace all vehicles that we've identified meet the criteria for disposal. Worth noting that we plan to replace these vehicles first and foremost with electrified vehicles. So we want to replace a petrol vehicle with our first dedicated EV, and we propose to replace the 3 Utes that are coming up for replacement with BYD Shark plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, subject to confirmation that they meet the use case for those particular vehicles that are being replaced, and that the supplier has concrete plans to open the Invercargill branch in the coming months. They've indicated that they do, but we need to see that. We need to be absolutely sure of that before we start committing to vehicles that would otherwise be difficult to service. I've also supplied 2 appendices with additional information, or we've supplied 2 appendices for additional information. One of those appendices is an initial report from a longitudinal study of the existing BYD Shark 6. And we've tried to be very sort of clear and as transparent as possible in terms of the positives and negatives of the vehicle. But in the report, we note that under extreme operating conditions, there was an electrical fault with the vehicle, and we can't afford that sort of thing to occur in extreme remote locations. So, so for some of our more extreme use cases, we may determine that conventional four-wheel drive vehicles that are less electronically complex are the better way to go. However, our findings to date suggest that the Shark 6 vehicles are suitable for the majority of our regular use cases, and they would be a positive addition to our fleet in terms of greening our fleet and reducing our emissions. What I've also done in Appendix 2, and this is just for information, not proposing that you act on it, But I've given you a hypothetical model of what it would cost if we swapped out all of the utes in our fleet with plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, just so that you've got that information. It's the utes are the dirty vehicles in our fleet in terms of emissions, and these modern hybrid electric vehicles are an opportunity to reduce our carbon emissions. Under the hypothetical model, it would cost about $900,000 to modernise the fleet in this way, and just for information. But I thought you might find that useful and interesting.
Thank you, Patrick. That's very thorough. And thank you for providing that report from Michael McDonald about their adventures in the outback. So that was very good. Any questions about that? You're not allowed to ask questions about the colour of the vehicles.
They should be blue and green. Blue, never white. That every year, I think, we'll be here. I don't see any bikes in here either, push bikes for the CE. We talked about that in about 2017, I think. Okay, a couple of things. It's good to see you setting the pace up on the Cargill. That's hugely important. So it's either Queenstown or Dunedin. The reliabilities are, you've obviously looked at the reliability, because we could be working in emergency times, getting caught somewhere. You don't want to get the places will be critically important, especially with EMS and those sort of discussions. Highly supportive of going down, looking at this this option. I do have just a question about resale of our vehicles. We always seem to be very low. I don't know, are they just put at auction or are they trades? Or just can I ask how that's those numbers?
So maybe two parts to your question. How do we normally dispose of the vehicles? First question. We historically they've been put to turners with an agreed reserve and sold wholesale.
I just see that 55 cent. I'm just thinking a few of these cost vehicle just seems. I hope you get a bit more than that. Anyway, the other thing, and it's great, and this is always very good to put it out in the public, that the reduction in vehicles that are sitting around this building, that's what all the voters, certain ratepayers, that very clear that you've dropped 10 vehicles in the last 6 years. And the efficiencies can be seen. So I know I often look at how many Ks are on these vehicles. They're being used.
Yeah.
Used to be vehicles was very low Ks, very old, and they seem to be sitting around a bit. So obviously the efficiencies within the building working well. So just giving thumbs up, and we can always put that push bike in for the CE retirement gift.
Thank you, Jeremy. Ewan, did you have something?
Yeah, well, it's just a technicality, I suppose, and an amendment to probable amendment to what's written here. Page 32, towing capacity is 2.5 tonne, wouldn't be 2,500 tonne.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for that call out. Yes, it is 2.5 tonne. Also worth noting that there's a new version of that shunt coming out with 3.5 tonne, which is the equivalent of the Rangers and the BT50s. What's 3 here?
Right. Any other questions?
Well, I was just going to comment on just really what Jeremy was saying too. When I saw the full year time frame as being something, I thought, brief, are we trading them early? But when I see the Ks on them and the age of them, they are being used at reasonable lengths. So that's good. And I also saw, you know, the age, the total number as well coming down. So I like the report. I think it was really informative. Thank you, David. Yes, Alison.
How they purchased, because, the last time I had a look at this was probably about 3 years ago. And the purchase price, I could get a better purchase price than what was happening to buyers who are buying many. So how does it all work?
So when we purchase vehicles, for certain manufacturers, we have an all of government price available to us. So that I believe the Fords have an all of government, the Toyotas and the BYDs. So essentially what the all of government means is that MB's gone out and pre-negotiated prices with these manufacturers on behalf of government, and if we subscribe to that, then we can access those discounted prices. So that's what we tend to do when we purchase vehicles, is we access the AOG pricing.
So are we free to do better?
Yes, we are. So if we can get a better price than what's available through AOG, there's nothing to stop us doing that.
Right.
Yes.
One quick one in regards to, obviously, we do have a fund vehicle replacement depreciating, and the depreciation, is that right?
Or capital fund.
You know, it's sitting about 800 or 900K. So I think, and to be corrected,
I think that's about right.
As we get less and less vehicles, and to be honest, their value for money is actually not too bad. They haven't gone up in prices. I always sort of challenge that we still seem to be throwing the heat in that. When we're actually dropping the actual how many vehicles we've got on hand, so to speak. So whether we need to be just in the future look at that and say, do we actually need to be depreciating or put into that fund, using some of that fund more than actually coming out of the ratepayers. So I'll just challenge them. I'll just just note that we need to have a look at that.
It's a fair comment. It's probably due for
Yes, I note that the scenario you put up about replacing them all would save a lot of fuel. So that's something worthwhile for the future. Somebody like to move this recommendation, please?
I can move that, Chair.
Seconded by Ewan. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
It's carried. Thank you very much.
Fish.
Right, business plan update. Dominic?
Yeah. And good morning, everyone. Instead of going through a page showing what I propose, I'll just do a quick overview of the report, write some highlights, and then at the end, you have to come back to me specific pages and ask any questions. As noted in the previous financial update, we're continuing to track favourable to budget. However, the March quarter did see a significant uplift in activity across the organisation, particularly in areas that are seasonally dependent, such as marine biosecurity, biodiversity, the science monitoring programs, jobs for nature and infrastructure work. Some of the highlights over the quarter that I'll just touch on. Throughout February was a big run of field days and community events, both attended and hosted by a number of staff and council. And obviously then the aim through those events is to not only maintain visibility, but also strengthen the relationships across that sector. Of course, we're now at the end of the cruise ship season, and even though we're sort of just talking about expenditure here, just note that our marine fee income was exactly in line with budget for the year, which is not an easy task necessarily, given the number of external factors that can impact that. So it was bang on for the year, and pleasingly, the cruise ship audits that were undertaken returned 100% compliance with our data. So again, another very good result there. Looking inwards, we had the first annual Going the Extra Mile, or GEM Awards for staff, which builds upon our existing staff recognition program, although this has a focus on continued performance and demonstration of our values over a 12-month period. And we're lucky enough to have the chair attend to help present the awards and congratulate the recipients. And I think it's very good afternoon, some very worthy recipients. It's like the cruise season, we're also heading into a bit of a reporting season, and so the organisation is very busy with the likes of the long-term plan, annual report, and the business plan. So they're all well underway at the moment. Looking forward to next quarter, it's going to be much the same as their March quarter, as they make the most of the better weather, and as we head into the reporting, so we'll see another uplift in activity across the organisation. And then looking forward to 26, 27 and in support of some of the earlier discussion here today, the development of the 26, 27 business plan. As part of that process, we were looking at, the objectives the business plan was set out to sort of achieve. And they were like the likes of aligning our work programs, providing better visibility of the work we're doing, and helping us manage organisational performance. And by and large, it's doing a pretty good job against that criteria. But what we have, what we are going to work on in terms of this plan is really focusing our efforts and our activity on the things that really matter in the year. So we're going to look at, how we can consolidate some of the work we're doing to get through stronger reporting on the pieces of work that really matter for us to deliver next year. So again, that just will go to further enhance some discussions around, how can the organisation deliver to our commitments next year. Cool. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Anybody got some questions for that? Does everybody find this, as I had asked this before, I find it quite well set out and it's easy to follow, which is really good. There's some comments here on page 44 about the work program for the year about managing flood risk. I think this is what Tanya was talking about as well. And that some of those things have been underspent. I see one of the reasons was that there was a lot of work had to be done on tidying up the spring storm, and that held up a lot of other work that was planned. Is that right? Can you explain that a bit more?
I'm not too sure if Lucy's still on the call. She dropped off. There's been a sort of an ongoing, I suppose, a diversion of effort to focus on cleaning up some of that stuff, and I think the tail end of it's still been happening in the back end of the March quarter, which is one of the contributing factors, but not the only one.
So that had to take precedence over other planned work, is that right?
Yeah, I can't speak too much on that, Matt. I'm not sure if there's anything.
Through Chair, I think that was discussed earlier in an earlier session.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was this committee, but some commentary around the impact of the flood, of the storm event and cleaning up, impact on the work program.
Well, thank you, Rob. Phil.
Yeah, Don, thank you. And I like this report. I guess as I zoom out from it, and this is probably me thinking out loud, and maybe my question may emerge in sharing these thoughts as I reflect on this, is we are now finding ourselves as an organisation with a pretty obvious reform challenge ahead of us. And I'm just wondering if our business as usual stuff needs to somehow incorporate a transition readiness or a transition focus to help us also understand what might lie ahead and what we might be doing to prepare for that. Because I suspect that some of the uncertainty that might be afflicting us as an organisation, even at a governance level, links to the reform questions yet to be answered. And I suspect that when we stack on top of our current challenges, those transition things, risks, opportunities, that has the potential to dilute our focus in some respects, maybe divert our attention from some of the stuff that, as you said, what matters most. And so just perhaps, do you have thoughts on how this approach might accommodate that additional transition risk? And maybe Chief Executive might want to chip in and share some thoughts.
Yeah, well, good points. Councillor, you're looking at the next LTP as our LTP, which sets us up for the future. And that we'll need to look at what does that transition look like. What is focus on our functions, but also take into account the transitional work that we need to do. Patrick and the exec team are starting to think about doing some work around what does transition look like. There's a whole some work going on the technically that we can lean in. So good points, and I think you'll see the next LTP will capture that.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Anything else? Jeremy?
Just there's a couple of real big variances and one's probably bigger than performance only that indicate the infrastructure investment heading to be $1 million. We're meant to be spending 1.3 million for the financial year, and we're in 73,000. But also just clarify the biodiversity program.
Yeah,
major one too. Basically, we budgeted 413,000, we only done 37,000. A huge variance there. So just they're going to spend close to $500,000 in the next 3 months. There's a big budget trying to work out. I'm looking for explanations too. I haven't read them all, but they're the questions around what work's been done and what's not been done. Or are we going to? I take it it's not going to get done in the next 3 months. Utilise that money.
And this is part of the process we went through when looking at setting the rates and the budgets for next financial year, as using this information as the basis of, instead of just rolling it over into next year and adding some inflation on it, saying, is this work actually going to be done? Yes or no was sort of the first question posed on all these work programs. In regards to the biodiversity program, that work had been deferred as while they work through. Most of that is relates to community grant sort of funding type program, and so that it built a number of new ones on the back of sort of Jobs for Nature winding down, and they're sort of just coming to fruition now. So that's an example of one where we haven't got there this year, but that'll be up and running for next financial year.
Okay. All right. Somebody like to move the report? Jeremy, seconded by Phil. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Very much. Thank you, Don. Item 9.4. Marcus, I understand you're going to report on this.
Just bring up the paper is the Q3 long-term plan performance report. So basically this report outlines how we're tracking against level of service outlined in the long-term plan. It follows on from the previous quarters, but to give you an update, effectively where we sit, what we've moved the community on, we're 25 of our 34 initiatives on track. One is off track, 4 have been met, and there's no reporting update on 4 of the performance measures against the LTP. So where we sit is currently 74% performance against all of the criteria, given there's a bit of information missing and a couple of one of the measures off track. So worth noting too that previous financial years we've been sort of sitting at around the high 60% in terms of full year compliance with our levels of service indicated in the long-term plan. So there is a list in the appendix of all the initiatives, the portfolios and the milestones and the outcomes that we're seeking to achieve, and then a red, orange, green indicator for how we're tracking, and some commentary from the responsible. So ready to any questions associated with the report and findings.
Thank you. Paul.
Thank you for that, Marcus. Number 9, number of integrated catchment plans developed partnership leaving the community. Nothing's happening with that. Is there any plan on anything? Because that there would be a pretty significant percentage of
through you, Chair. So effectively the work in that space, previously there has been catchment plans for 2 catchments, but as of this year there hasn't been any integrated catchment plans being done. From what I understand is that work has been on pause and looking at the product being generated through the integrated catchment planning process and trying to recalibrate and understand exactly what success looks like to develop a better, more community-driven, more holistic version of what had been done in the past.
So what's the reasons for holding it up, and do we just it's been a continuing thing? Do we measure it then?
Yeah, so through you, Chair, effectively we are bound to measure and report on it, but in terms of the state of the work going on within the organisation. Effectively, I guess the update should probably go through the Integrated Catchment Committee. Would probably be a good opportunity to flag that, or we can take that as an action for an update through that committee. Might be a better avenue to answer more thoroughly the question. Yeah, good.
It just seems like two catchments of that sort of as we.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. As well. Perhaps just a continuation on that line of questioning. I'm just wondering if what we anticipated when myself and people struck may have been linked. This may have been linked to a little bit of certainty associated with plan change to Otahi, and I think that was put in hold. I suspect there's been a cascading flow effect to some of our other work. I was wondering if potentially this might also be a casualty of that shift in our understanding of how we're going to be managing integrated catchment management, and acknowledging that we've only just recently set up an integrated management committee, catchment management committee to lean into ICM more formally. Do you have thoughts on that? Was the plan change to Otahi shift on us, was that linked to this one, do you think?
Yeah, through you, Chair, I don't think they were directly related. I think plan change to Otahi is more of a Resource Management Act regulatory requirements associated with managing our waterways, whereas the integrated catchment planning was more of a community-driven process of involving catchment groups and understanding what's going on in the catchment, and therefore building towards a holistic community view of how a catchment can be managed moving forward, and building that program up through a more community-based process. Sure, it would have links into limits and our regulatory documents, but yeah, my understanding is the approach hasn't progressed because the methodology and approach of how the previous ones had been done was not as successful as it could have been, and I wanted to pause and actually make sure that they're just continuing to roll out a product that may not be the best product.
Yeah, I guess in my mind I had a sense that the limit setting process inherent in plan change to Otahi would have added an impetus or motivation to establish catchment level plans, because there's an opportunity therefore for a community to understand how limits might be translated to an equitable emissions sharing obligation across the catchment of different land uses. No, but I appreciate also that there's a community and social dimension to this as well. So.
Can I just add, Chair, there is things going on around looking at how do we progress catchment plans. And we have my freshwater plan, so there's some early planning work going on in that space.
And yeah, just to add to that too, there is regional spatial planning moving forward as well, and I guess the role of catchment plans within that more broad regional spatial planning approach around managing impacts on waterways, and where we see ourselves in 30 years and how do we track ourselves towards those outcomes is going to be something for those integrated catchment plans to feed into where we can as well.
I see this as an opportunity to work with the territorial authorities going forward with spatial planning, obviously, and this catchment planning. It's all could be tied together quite nicely. So when we're thinking about transition over the next 2 or 3 years, that could be, whether that's possible or not, I don't know, but it'd be good to get a step ahead. Jeremy.
Just a question in regards to page 58 around safe and resilient communities, and under the number 14, percentage of major flood protection control works, we've got 3 green lights. The initiative is currently on hold in each quarter. We're actually not doing anything. I'm just wondering how we get 3 green lights. If that could be explained. Page. Yeah, 14. It would indicate that we're not progressing. Well, they're obviously working things out, but that wouldn't be going to suggest that the 3 green lights might not be appropriate for that.
Yeah, I believe so too. My understanding is look, looking at the outcome sought. So you've got the milestone name, and in that outcome description, it sort of talks about maintaining and enhancing, like my view would be the defects and making sure that the defects are underway and doing those repairs as necessary. But I'm not sure. I agree that the commentary doesn't necessarily align.
Commentary basically says it's all on hold, and but we're getting green lights, which probably wouldn't indicate that we're actually doing the outcome description. Can we just get clarification around that?
So we can come back to through chair, we can come back to you on that. I mean, there is a lot of work going on in this asset management space, in sort of revamping our systems, but it's not meeting these outcomes.
No.
So I think if I could just comment, this was one of the points that Tanya Hawkins brought up in her submission this morning, and it's the business as usual work, repairing those defects while we're doing the canoa work as well. So I think there's perception that the business as usual work has taken a back seat. So it would be really good to get that clarified. And that'll be part of the response to her, I think.
Yep.
Councillor Gibson.
I think that was borne out by the last report where we'd only spent 200,000 in BAU, and we had 1.2 million to spend. So just following on from your point.
Right, thank you. Any other questions on this report? Or no? Okay. To move that report.
Second that.
Chair. And Councillor Evans seconded that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Marcus. Okay, Information Systems Technology Management Report. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, all. Presenting this report, our report is a well-established work program, so it's showing the progress for Q3. Some highlights that I'd like to bring to attention is that we are delivering well against our strategy. Our strategy is up for a rewrite or a refresh, I should say, for 2027. So Patrick and I are starting to have those conversations now about what that looks like. Will essentially be the bones of what we already have, because this program of work is ongoing and enduring for the next few years. Our core systems modernisation is going well. We've all of our SQL databases we've taken to the latest versions, and we've got a good migration and a decommission program happening in that space. So our risk profile of old legacy services diminishing, and we are being very secure and resilient in that space. We have the major platforms are progressing well. There's a paper that's in PX this morning around the FMIS business case. The Iris Next Gen program continues. There are delays in the program with that Targa pilot. We're keeping connected to the program, and we are keeping a watching brief to the next stages of that. It will be delivered. And we're not due to go live until October 2028 for that program. South Maps is, is now well and truly embedded in business as usual. And I didn't include it in this report, but I'll include it in the next one. There's some really nice stats that are coming out through the use of that replacement. And we haven't had too many complaints that have come through the requests, so that's been wonderful. Digital Workplace, of course, rollout of M365, Windows 11. BI reporting is we are got a work program happening in that space, mainly for our internal supporting P&C, so people and capability. We're starting to get some nice reports that are helping them in their functions. And of course, cybersecurity, always what keeps me awake at night, and sorry, I should rephrase that. Cybersecurity doesn't keep me awake at night, but ensuring that we are well and truly protected and we have the right tools in place. We have a PwC audit that kicks off this week, so and that's looking at the tools in our toolbox and ensuring that we are fully protected and our people know what to do in the event of an emergency in that space. That's my highlights.
Thank you, Jane. Phil?
And I was starting with the emerging challenges and opportunities around AI. Where does that sit within this work? Is that
It's currently not on our work program, and it's Patrick and I have had some conversations around the space. It's been mainly business driven at the moment, and there does need to be a cohesive work program that is put around it. And so so when we get that to the next, we've been a bit distracted with the other business case, but it certainly is on our close radar of being able to deliver.
I can just make a couple of brief comments. So when so we have Copilot in the organisation and a number of licenses and a number of people using it. When Jane and I refreshed the technology strategy, that's a logical place to start. Is what are the good use cases of using Copilot to make work more productive? That's probably your purpose, isn't it? And that's a similar path to what other councils are taking. Also worth noting that assuming agreement with the business case with the NPX, that product has got some AI capability embedded in it for word matching, etc. And that's what increasingly what we're going to find is that as we consume software products, the AI capabilities are embedded in the vendors' software.
Yeah, and our team is starting to trial some agents and seeing what productivity gains that we can gain from them. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. I know that in April, inbound emails, which are down 30%, phishing attacks are down, which is good. So even with our organisation, with the staff and the councillors, and also with the protection that you've put in place, has actions improved? Like, you're not a random councillor accepting everything. I just note that I just received an email from Inside Government and clicked on a story regarding emergency management because we've got a sit down later today, so it was quite good to see what that was in relation to a budget announcement. And my computer asked me to check whether it was safe or harmful, which is good. I passed.
Good.
But does that happen enough? Or?
I think so. I think that the tools are getting smarter. The tools have got AI embedded into them. And interesting enough, the tool that we use for, I'm not down in the weeds, but the tool that we use for protecting our email and protecting you all is moving away from protecting the web browser as well. So they are fully concentrating on the email space. So they're investing all of their roadmap money into enhancing their tools. So, I mean, there's always going to be the smart.
First it's going to slip through.
Yeah.
Then it's going to be accepted. So, very good.
Oh, yeah.
Very good report. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, any others? All those in favour of that recommendation? Receive the report. Paul?
I'll move.
Seconded by
I'll second.
Ewan. Thank you very much, Jane.
Thank you.
Jane.
Thank you. Right. Annual activity report, Patrick.
I don't think I've got anything specific to put out.
Okay. See the timetable of things there. Just a note on those civic financial services and the RSHL giving us massive big reports that in talking about Copilot before, I understand is that Copilot can be used to summarise those reports to provide a more digestible report for us that has still got all the essential parts of it. So next time, and I think also, Patrick, you said that will be So that will be the basis of the report we get, but there will be a link to the actual reports if you want to explore those more fully.
Yes, that's correct. Acknowledging the feedback that 400 pages of material isn't particularly useful, but also acknowledging that we have an obligation to monitor the performance of these organisations. That seems like the pragmatic way forward is that we do a careful co-pilot summary, ensure that you're getting pertinent information and we've checked it, but you've got the link if you want the full.
Thank you, Patrick. Would someone like to move or receive that report?
Yeah, I'm happy to move. Just a wee comment in regards to AI, James here. We actually quite good to have a session on using AI, what we're allowed to, what we're not, and just how we can use it, things like that. I mean, I play around with it, but someone just lives on around here. But it actually within the councillors to have where we're allowed to go, where we're not allowed to go.
Yeah. So that's the part of that work program that we've set up, and so obviously starting at governance first, ELT. There is many free courses that you can go to. I try and spend an hour every week, doing some self training. But yeah, so Copilot is at the moment our preferred product. It is built into your M365, so you've got it already. So
Jane, with noting that that's the free version and the licensed version has more capability.
Yes.
So some of us have the license.
Yes, some of us do have the licensed version.
So you're just showing what it can do too.
But to roll that out to the organisation, like it's a $250,000 piece of work. So
Really on that.
the free version does do a really good job. It does. The licensed version does do.
You need a governance person to volunteer as a guinea pig to you.
Yeah.
Jeremy's asking if we could have a kind of a workshop.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
All right, thanks, Jane.
I can second that, Chair.
Moved by Jeremy, second by Paul. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried. And now we don't have any extraordinary business, so we'll move into public excluded. Somebody like to move to do that?
Reason being, I'll see. Reasons.
You want to read through it?
In accordance with section 48(1) of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987 and the particular interest protected by section 7 of that act, that the public be excluded from the following parts of the proceedings of this meeting, namely confirmation of the public excluded minutes from the Finance and Performance Committee meeting of 19th of March 2026. The general subject matters to be considered while the public is being excluded, the reason for this resolution and the relations to the matter, and the specific grounds for excluding the public as specified by section 48(1) of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act of 1987 set out in the tables.
Thank you. Would somebody like to move? We go into public excluded for those reasons. Phil, seconded by David. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried. Thank you very much. So the first item is the confirmation.
Yes, just stop.
Oh, sorry.
Just ending.
She's got it.
All right.